Hi, my name is Joe, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I review martial arts books and also cover other martial arts related topics. Today I'm going to be reviewing the book Low Kicks by Fred Hutchinson, published in 2001. I couldn't find a whole lot about the author. I in particular was very curious about his background, and I'll get to that later on in the video. He had published a book prior to this called The Modern Swordsman, which was about using Japanese-style swordsmanship in the modern world for self-defense. So I don't have that, but I'm very curious about its contents, so it's on the list. The book itself divides kicks into chambered kicks and unchambered kicks, and when it presents its chapters, that's, here's the chapter on chambered kicks, here's the chapter on unchambered kicks. He presents 16 kicks total. There are 6 of which that I find questionable, either mechanically or legally, because this book is supposed to be on how to use low kicks in a self-defense situation. Of the kicks, you will probably see among the most common ones, front, side, round, back kick. There are a few others. He has one that's, you'll find in old World War II combatives, where you sort of use the inside of your boot, sort of like the arch of the foot nearest the heel. Sort of chop into the guy's shin and then drag down the shin as you stomp on the foot. You'll also see stomps, including like flying stomps to a downed opponent, what he calls a bronco kick. When it comes to the chambered kicks, he will show a karate chamber and a savate chamber. I sort of take issue with the savate chamber. The reason I do is that these kicks, mechanically, when he's showing them, take the foot in the opposite direction of the target before moving back into the target. Now, my first background in martial arts was karate. I don't think this is a karate bias. I find even the idea of calling this a savate chamber sort of questionable. I have books on both old school savate and the modern sport of le boxe français, and I have material on that dating back to at least 1844 and as recent as at least the 90s. I have never seen a savate chamber the way he's describing it. That's one of the things that made me curious about his background, and he does include a lot of references at the end of the book. You might think of them as recommended reading, but in that list, the only book he has listed on savate is from Bruce Tegner, who was a very prolific author in the 50s and 60s. I don't have a copy of Tegner's savate book. I couldn't find it on PDF. You'd probably wait a while before ordering it. So I'm unsure about whether or not this particular chamber was included in that book. And I'm starting to really think it is, because that's the only possible place that I haven't checked where that sort of chamber might show up. That puts most of his savate chamber, kicks on my list of questionable kicks. I also find it interesting that there is no Muay Thai style round kick, although when he refers to the karate style round kick, he talks about using the shin. Now, there is a difference between karate and Muay Thai style kicking, generally depending on your style. Some are closer than others. But it just seems a very notable absence, especially since this was written after, Muay Thai became popular both as a method of kickboxing and in the sport of mixed martial arts. There's also no Jeet-Tek, leg obstruction that you would find in Jeet Kune Do, and no oblique kick / cross stomp / shovel kick. It goes by a few different names. It's a stomping kick with a toe pointed outward. The thing is, that kick actually shows up on the cover of the book. So it's sort of funny that it's left out of the actual contents of the book. Another notable thing about this book is that when the techniques are being shown, you have some very photorealistic illustrations. I almost think they took a photograph and sort of bleached it out or something, maybe for like the technique sections. But there are other sections like, how to, have a frame for self-defense, and the various conditioning and training chapters where you have a very crude drawing of a humanoid figure. Proportions are all off. It's unusual. And it's a bit jarring to go from that very crude drawing to this incredibly realistic drawing. There are also chapters on physical conditioning, on how to practice kicking, like how to practice the form of kicking, which includes a lot of balance drills. And there are also a number of drills on developing speed and accuracy, as well as chapters on building strength so that you can add power into your kicks. And I really think the drills for, developing the speed and accuracy, I really like that chapter and the drills that it contains. There's also a chapter on the use of the low kicks in self-defense. This is more like a list of principles as opposed to a set of drills or techniques. So the pros and cons. As far as the pros go, I think more than half of the mechanics of the low kick are solid. I think including some of the considerations for self-defense, I like that. The cons, the illustrations stand out. We go from something that is incredibly realistic to something that looks like a fifth grader drew it. And then there are, like I said, the mechanical and legal considerations of some of the kicks. He does mention in the book, very late, but he does mention that if you're going to kick someone who's on the ground, it needs to be legally justifiable. It seems a bit late to include those when you also include, this Bronco kick double jumping stomp thing. If that winds up working as advertised, you basically pop a guy's lungs like a balloon, and you're going to have to legally justify that, which is going to be hard, because somebody lying on the ground is not a clear and present physical danger to you. So, who would I recommend this to? I would have trouble recommending this to most people. I would say if you have an existing self-defense background and want to supplement it with kicks, you could use this book for that. I would strongly suggest testing out the various chambers, because I think you'll find very quickly that the quote-unquote savate chamber isn't going to be very useful once you're actually drilling. But there are good mechanics contained herein, and insofar as building the physical side of kicking power, kicking ability, there are many good exercises and drills contained in here. So honestly, all due respect to the author, this is not a book I would strongly recommend to anyone. But if you, again, are trying to learn the totality of self-defense and you don't have any knowledge of kicking, this would be an okay book for that. So I sort of feel like I have to apologize because this is a bit of a downer review, but it's also an honest review. Anyway, that's all for this week. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment if you wish, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.